So that shows that everybody can stay separate. We can live separately and we can still be able to have these beautiful union. But when people are running away from that and they are saying, no, we don't want to break away from Nigeria, we have to be forced to live under the same roof, then what you are doing and what you are projecting is going to be a disaster. But the template that Professor Akintoye has given us has indicated that if we have our own Yoruba country separate from Nigeria, we can build our own system of government that is not the one that is currently running right now and the ones that have been run in the last 60 years of the fake country called Nigeria. So many Nigerians now need to start talking about, do we as people want to live together? But if you're running away from that and you are pretending, then what you are also doing is that you are part of the problem. Because you cannot be talking about, oh, we will have our PVC, we will vote. No, we don't want to vote again. We are not interested in any messed up voting system that has never healed the indigenous people's right. What we want now is, do we want to live together? And me and you, we don't have to live together. We can live separate and still have great impact of things that can be done on our lives. But when people are being told all manners of lies by the crooked politician that we can live under one roof and they will call it one Nigeria, and they are even suggesting that we have more states. We don't need more states. We have our Yoruba land. We want to operate within our Yoruba land, decide things the way we want, look at the future of how we want it to be, yet we don't want to have anything to do with Nigeria. So this is the reason why we are out on a daily basis, educating millions of people around the world, whether they are Nigerians, those that are non-Nigerians need to know that Nigeria has over close to 350 ethnic groups, over 500 languages. This is no longer workable. This is no longer futuristic. So it has to end. And it has to end now before things becomes worse. Because what is going to happen is we will experience more disaster. We will continue to experience disaster if we do not allow the union to collapse. Whether the disaster will happen now or we are just leaving that disaster for years to come, there will be more atrocities that will continue to run within the enclaves of what is known as Nigeria. So what we are trying to explain is not creating problem. What we are putting out there is not a suggestion, is to resolve all manner of crisis that has been experienced in Nigeria for the last many years. And I'm sure it is something that needs to stop now so that our lives can be great. We can have better opportunity. We can live the kind of life that is going to be of interest to us. Because the life that the Yoruba people are living in Nigeria today is being restricted. The life that the Hausa people are living today is being restricted. the lives that even the Igbos, the Ijos are living today is also being restricted. All these is no longer workable. And we need to ask the question, do we still want to live as one country? We should not be shy from talking about it. Talking about it is even better. It's going to be in the interest of everyone. But if we are running away from it and we don't want to talk about it, who is going to come and talk about it? Who are we expecting to come and help us to talk about it? We are the indigenous people. We are the one that are facing the bunch of the problems. Every citizens around the world have their different problems within their country. But Nigeria is not a country. It's many nations, many people forced together to live together under a fake roof. And that roof is leaking. That roof has become a disaster. That roof is having a big impact. I hope those of you on the we're having, I know, I'm not sure whether my streaming is coming very good on YouTube. Again, I've cut down the streaming. We only have two running. So please let me know in the comment section if it is coming great in terms of if I'm audible, if you can hear me, and if the picture is a little bit clear, even though I do know that we're struggling in terms of, I can tell from my end, but if you're listening to me on the WD76, please let me know in the comment section if the streaming is coming out great. Once again, my name is Olamide. So what we're going to do quickly because of my time constraint, we will review again the guideline that Baba Akintoye produced during the course of this movement. The template, the futuristic of the Yoruba people within a Yoruba country. We don't want to, we can never as Yoruba people be futuristic in Nigeria. Nigeria is not going to work in a futuristic way. So why then do we want to remain in a country where it is not futuristic? We got to be honest with ourselves. We need to pull out. Okay, I'm audible. What about the visual? Is my visual coming out very good? Because it's telling me YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Thank you so much, Mr. Waris Jinadu. And he says there is a problem with the Naira. Okay, it seems that it's now stable since I've taken down few channels, and I believe now we're doing very well. Excellent connection. I think we're doing very well. So we're only running on Olayomi Koiki, and we are also, remember, we also have our backup YouTube channel, but right now it is currently not working because, but I mean, what I mean is not working is we are not streaming on it right now, but we are live on the MixLR, which is like a radio where you can listen. It is much cheaper for you. And I believe many of you need to subscribe. It's free and it costs you nothing. So being part of the MixLR would also be great for you, especially many Nigerians that you're struggling because of the data that is quite expensive to watch most of our programs from Nigeria. So thank you so much once again to many of you that have joined this particular evening. It's coming up to almost 20 minutes before 1800 hours. In a nutshell, what that means is that, thank you so much. I'm told by Triple DRS from Nottingham that everything is okay with the visual. Thank you so much. And we do appreciate all our listeners and viewers from around the world, from Australia to China, to all African countries, to South Asia, to United Kingdom, Canada, and every part of Yoruba land up to the north, to the southeast. We are grateful to have many of you that are following the Yoruba Nation self-determination campaign. It is still a movement, and by God's grace, it will become a full independent country with or without the support of the United Nations, with or without the support of the African Union, with or without the support of the global community. because we own the land. We are not going to Kashmir. We are not going to India to fight for their land. We are talking about our own land. And what land are we talking about? We're talking about the land that the Creator gave us to operate with. And that land is called Yoruba land. We are not encroaching on the Igbo land. We are not encroaching on the Ijaw land. We are not encroaching on other land within Africa. So when Baba Akintoye made all necessary things, we can have our country in 2025 by the power and the grace of the will of the people. So let us put this at a clear mind that the Yoruba nation can leave Nigeria this year, and that's exactly what we are doing. So don't be surprised that you can wake up one day and there can be a full independent Yoruba country that will be in existence. That is why we are preparing the minds of millions of Yoruba people, about 60 million in Nigeria and millions of them outside Nigeria. So don't be shocked that one day, that is not going to be far away, this 2025, before the end of the year, the Yoruba people can be saying, congratulations, we already have our country. It is our right. That right must be respected by the countries around the world. They have no reason to interfere with the internal problems of the indigenous people. They can mediate, they can talk to the government, they can talk to the people that are part of this movement, but they cannot. The US has no legal right to tell us not to have our country. Neither does any countries around the world, including the British, or Britain rather, that created the entity known as Nigeria today. So for those of you that are still in doubt that a Yoruba country can become an independent country this year, do remind yourself that nobody has the power to stop it. But we have the power to push forward. We have the power to bring that to the discussion of those that are still in doubt. And that's exactly what myself, with the rest of the team, are running on a daily basis to educate you, to let you know that it can be done, and it will be done, and it will happen, and nobody can stop it. So while we are still almost ready, like I said, to get into what we call a recap, we've done full amount of discussion on what I'm going to be talking about. It's not new to some of you, but it is just for me to recap on it, as this is the year that is very, very important. So when people are saying that we want Yoruba nation, they are not probably sure why we want Yoruba nation. So my job is to tell them that the reason why we want Yoruba nation is because there is a great template. And this template is very, very important for me and you, so that we can move forward and help ourselves in understanding clearly what it means to have a Yoruba independent country. Our country is not a social media country. It is a country that will become fully official at the appropriate time. But like I said, it can be done within the space of this year if we all put together in our millions and demand it as quickly as possible, and we can come out of the structure that was created in a fraudulent way by Britain in 1914. So my job is to remind those of us that are still not in the clear that this is no longer a joke. This is real. The Yoruba nation cause is a real, and it will happen within the life that we are living today. It is not something that, forget about whatever your pastor or your imams are telling you, that the future of a Yoruba country is not going to happen now. It's going to happen, and it will happen in our lifetime. So let's bring that up quickly so that we can take you into the back end of what we are saying right now. Once again, my name is Olami Koike. Today is the 25th of March 2025, coming up to exactly 6:15. But before we do that, let's just bring this in, and I'll come back again and tell you more about what is going to happen this evening.
Gbogbo Yorùbá pátá lé lóko náà sọ pé èdè wa jọ wá lójú lápárapọ̀ dá dúró Yorùbá nation will stand. Gbogbo Yorùbá pátá lé lóko náà sọ pé èdè wa jọ wá lójú lápárapọ̀ dá dúró Yorùbá nation will stand.
À ń fi àsìkò yìí ṣe ìkéde fún gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá lápapọ̀ láti gbáradì fún àwọn ìwọ́de tí ń bọ̀ lọ́nà nípa pàtàkì orílẹ̀-èdè Yorùbá nation àti wípé ìdí tí a fi gbọdọ̀ dá dúró gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìpínlẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ìwọ́de yìí náà ni a máa ṣe káàkiri gbogbo ilẹ̀ káàárọ̀ òjíire bí tí bàbá wa onímọ̀ ẹ̀rọ emeritus Professor Adebanji Akintoye yóò ṣe olùdarí rẹ̀. Ọdún 2025 yìí náà ni yóò bẹ̀rẹ̀, a sì máa kàn sí wa nípa oṣù àti gbogbo ohun tí a bá fẹ́ mọ̀. Olùkéde Ọláyọmí Kóìkí, agbẹnusọ fún olóyè Sunday Adéyẹmọ Ìgbòho.
tẹ̀lé lórí so gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá àtọ́bá ilẹ̀ Yorùbá àti ìjòyè wọ́n láwọn ò faramọ́ kí Fúlàní máa jí wa gbé wọ́n máa jẹ oko wa kọ́ máa dà wá láàmú.
Agbógun má ti di akọni nínú èèyàn o. Ẹgbẹ́ kò Sunday mi. Akọni tó ń yọni léwu tó ń gbá yín sílẹ̀ lójú ogun. Òun náà pè lálágbára. Mo mẹ́wé mo mẹ́kò mo olóògùn tó ń jẹ. Níwọ̀n bá ní o ṣe níwájú ìbò. Lẹ́lẹ́ tí ó máa fẹ́. Lẹ́lẹ́ tí ó máa fẹ́. Lẹ́lẹ́ tí ó máa fẹ́. Àtìyá o.
Ẹ jẹ́ a jáde, ẹ máa bọ̀ ń ta ká ṣe kí ni o, kàtúyàyà. Let's come out and showcase ourselves.
And welcome back quickly as we continue to look into why we, the Yoruba people, have no more business in Nigeria.
It's not about sentiment. It's that there are a group of people in this country that feels that this country should be Islamized. This is a fact. Except you want me to start mentioning names of people in this government that we have interrogated. I was a member of an interrogation team, and I've interrogated a very high-ranking member of this government in 2007, 2008 on the issue of Boko Haram. I interrogated him. He's in this government right now. And what was the issue? Boko Haram. And this senior officer was actually let go because he was found culpable. But right now he's in the government. You see, we must say the truth, because if you don't, this country is going down the precipice. We have been set back more than 60 years right now. We've gone back to the time before 1966 now. And whoever is coming back to repair this country has a lot of work to do. This country has never been polarized, so we cannot run away from it. We have never been this much polarized. I'm a federal person. My mind is federal. My brain is federal. My loyalty is federal. I do things for the federal government. So I cannot come here and try to be sentimental. No, I'm a federal person.
So will your life be at risk now that they're hearing you?
I don't care. I don't care. And my colleagues, they know me. Those people that are listening to me, they know me. I don't care. The issue is that this country is bigger than individual. That is the issue. This country is bigger than individuals. Buhari will come and go. Eliminating me or killing me will not solve the problem and will not add value. But he will come and go. And somebody must come and repair the damage to the psyche of this society, the damage to the polarization, to the nepotism that I've never seen in my life. I work with all these presidents. This is the worst situation I've found myself. And believe me, internet does not forget. I was part of the people that helped to bring Buhari to government because I believe in him.
Have you worked with the government after that?
After
you helped bring the government?
Oh, of course, I worked with him. We brought him in 2015, and I work as the Deputy Director of Defense Administration. And we have a lot of hope in him. And we actually are ready to do anything for him. What he has turned out over the years is shocking to us. I was in Harvard in 2014, in December, when the Department of State Services and CIA and others were contemplating about Buhari and other aspirants. I know what we did to convince the American government that the only person that can come and put this country right is Buhari. That was before the Lagos, APC, before they chose within.
Right.
And that was how Tinubu came in. We know what we did, but what he has done in the past 6 years is shocking. It's unprecedented. And it should not be allowed to be swept under the carpet because the damage to the psyche of this country is monumental.
I'm thinking about how we've been having this conversation about the unity of Nigeria. And I reflect back at some of the prominent statements made by some of our founding leaders. And I feel that probably this will help us to have a conversation on the Nigerian unity. I just brought four, not to bore you. First, and I quote, not my statement, Nigeria is not a nation. It's a mere geographical expression. There are no Nigerians in the same sense as there are English, Welsh, or French. The word Nigerian is merely a distinctive appellation to distinguish those who live within the boundaries of Nigeria from those who do not. This is accredited to Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the former Prime Minister of the Western region. The second one, and I quote, it is true that we politicians always delight in talking loosely about the unity of Nigeria. 60 years ago, there was no country called Nigeria. What is now Nigeria consisted of several large and small communities, all of which were different in their outlooks and beliefs. The advent of the British and that of Western education has not materially altered the situation, and the many and varied communities have not knit themselves into a composite unit. This is accredited to Sir Amadu Bello, former Premier of Northern Region. The third, and I quote, since 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. But the Nigerian people themselves are historically different in their backgrounds, in their religious beliefs and customs, and do not show themselves any sign of willingness to unite.
I've given you the first two videos. I got a few more videos before we talk about the guideline by Professor Adebanji Akintoye is actually the good news path to prosperity in our Orileede Yoruba. I'm going to be giving that in a few minutes. Let's pick from what we've listened from the former Commodore Kunle Olawumi. Let's pick from the Jonathan says that the unity of Nigeria is like some groups of people or a country, Britain, is trying to force us to live together. The question I'm asking this evening, for the benefit of those that still disagree that Nigeria should be under a one country is, are we united as people? Don't come and give me, oh, you are married to an Igbo woman. That's not what I'm talking about. Are we united in this jungle that was put together by Britain? And if we're not united, why then are we talking about another election? Why should we be discussing 2027? 2027 should not be what we should be discussing on the round table. What we should be discussing is whether the Yoruba people wants to remain in an enclave country called Nigeria that is not futuristic to us anymore. What we should be talking about is, does the Biafra wants to live in Nigeria? The Ijaw people are now waking up after we saw what is happening by the Yoruba president that is doing exactly the nepotism that Buhari did while he was in power for 8 years. We saw the PDP are crying for 16 years. They could not unite the whole of Nigeria. So that means for the 25 fake democracy, Obasanjo is talking about that there is no democracy in the country. We should wax him if there was ever one during his 8-year tenure as a tyrant or during his military rule in the fake country. So what we have been told for the last 60 years of these fake country is that let us live and manage while we are enriching countries around the world, and the real indigenous people are not being, what do you want? What do you want to pick from there?
I just need to put the honey drop.
Okay. What we have been experiencing is that we have not talked about whether truly we should be one country. And mind you, I don't want to be in one country anymore. I want to have a Yoruba country where we have our own currency, we have our own government in place, so that I can hold my government accountable for whatever crisis that is happening in Yoruba land, as many killing is taking place, inflation, there's no job, our borders are left open for every Dick and Harry to come in through it. I don't want to live in that kind of country. I want to have freedom. I want to be able to travel from every part of Yoruba land without being worried that there is no security for me. All these are issues that many Yoruba people are now asking. We shouldn't be talking about 2027 again. Tinubu should be the last president, and that is why we are saying Tinubu should divide Nigeria in the interest of every Nigerian. Let me take you straight to Dr. Ugo. The issues of the Biafra is still boiling. Again, this is one of those Biafrans that says and asks again, do we truly want to be one? We've listened to Jonathan, and I say thank you so much, because Jonathan failed to divide Nigeria. We pray that Tinubu will divide Nigeria so that everybody, dividing a country doesn't mean that we cannot come into that country again. When the UK exit from the European Union, many of their citizens still live and work and travel, and making a breakup out of a country, it's also going to create enabling environment and jobs. The British left the European Union. The new passport was created immediately because the old one is no longer valid. When we have our country, we will own our own passport. We will no longer be represented across the globe as Nigeria. That itself is a good start, because we don't know who are the real criminals within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. At least being a Yoruba country, you will be representing your country, your true country, with that passport, with that identity. Every British citizen, an American citizen, a Canadian citizen, a South Korea citizen that travels around the world are recognized with their passport. You cannot have over 300 ethnic indigenous people in one country having one passport. We do not know who is who. This is no longer a joke. 2027 should not be on the table right now. What every Nigerian should be talking about is the division of this amalgamation. It needs to now be de-amalgamated. It can be done, but the politicians do not want to go through that route. They want to create more problems for many Nigerians that are not Nigerians anyway. Let's listen to Dr. Ugo. Once again, share the program and like and love. My name is Olamiko Ike.
They wanted to be separate from the country that the British Empire had imposed on us, which was this country of Nigeria, where they kind of took a bunch of independent nations who don't have anything to do with each other, don't even speak each other's language, don't relate. Many of them were even enemies and warring at the time, smushed them all together and drew these arbitrary lines around them and called them countries and named those countries.
Right.
And then said, now y'all get along and do a country for us and be a union for us. And then go through, contentious, bloody independence processes that never really yield any real independence. You're still part of a commonwealth afterwards.
True.
And you have the eternal meddling in your affairs and the eternal extraction of your resources and the eternal fomenting of divisiveness and infighting in order to be able to control you. This is what an oppressor does, a colonizer does. These are tactics and strategies of dominance.
Right.
We were subjected to that as a larger unit of Nigeria. And then when the Igbo people said, we want our own thing, let's go and do that. Well, it so happened to be that the territory that this new country of Biafra was going to be in included very, very rich oil reserves. And the British were not going to let go of that.
Wow.
And the people that they had put in power, their puppet Nigerian governments weren't going to do that either because they needed it for the Nigerian project.
Right.
And Britain needed it for its own interests and uses. So Great Britain got directly involved in this civil war and in the war for independence and decided that they would do everything to make sure that Biafra did not go.
Wow.
And this everything meant directly funding genocide of the people of Biafra.
Now, genocide. Many Nigerians are still facing genocide as we speak today. We are witnessing in 2025. We thought that we would not be able to see any kind of genocide in Nigeria. I don't know, maybe many of you know this. Half of the country right now, people are no longer living within the confinement of a free space. Security has become quite alarming. Whether with this government, the previous government, the 16 years of the PDP, it has always been failure. We know and we believe that the agenda is to Islamize every part of Nigeria. That cannot happen, but it is already planned in the process. We saw how this has been played out many, many times. What do you want? Yeah.
Can you help me get the apple, please?
All right, I'm coming. So what we are witnessing today is not a joke. The Biafra war is not yet over. We are now witnessing more war across every part of Nigeria. We are witnessing that and everybody is living in denial. Let President Tinubu come on the round table on the national TV and address Nigerians that it is time that the country needs to divide. It is in the interest of everybody. There will be glory, there will be happiness. You will not have to worry that the Hausa will be the next president. I will not have to be worried about the Igbo will be the next president. Everybody can go back to their own base and deal with those issues. But if we leave this late, let's hear what Agbakoba, the senior advocate of Nigeria, is advising might also happen.
President Tinubu needs to put his best foot forward to govern the country. If he does that, in 4 years, he can turn things around. But there are certain critical things he would need to do The first thing is to say, what's the constitution? If, for instance, me and my wife Lillian don't agree in our marriage of 45 years, then we can't do anything. So the first thing that President Tinubu would need to do is to ensure that Nigerians all agree to be one country. You recall that Bola Ige asked those two questions. Do we want to be one? It's not by force. If we want to be one, how? We haven't answered those questions, which is why I told President Babi of the Senate that it has taken 23 years to solve the problem of the Constitution. And I urged him, in conjunction with President Tinubu, to resolve the Nigerian constitutional question now by inviting the owners of Nigeria. The owners of Nigeria, mark you, were those who owned Nigeria before Lugard brought his amalgamation in 1914. Call them in. These are the people who own the country, and ask them questions. What do you want to see of the Constitution? Because without a Constitution, we're going nowhere. And no one will doubt the fact that the Constitution bequeathed by the military in 1999 is unsatisfactory. You can't build anything out of a weak foundation. The economic development policy of President Tinubu, the political development policy of President Tinubu, and everything else he wants to do rests on a very solid foundation. So let him immediately resolve that. How can we spend 23 years looking for a foundation for building a house? Does that make sense to anybody? So that's my number one issue. We need to resolve this issue of, do we want to be one? And
2027 should not be the discussion of any Nigerians. Do we want to be one? I don't want to be one country. I want to have many countries within that beautiful location. The northern part of Nigeria is a beautiful place. Hopefully, I can visit it as a country, should I wish to. I don't have to buy a house in the southeast Biafra in the future country for them. I will decide if I want to go there. There are many countries that I might want to visit in the world that we are living today, and there are many countries that I might not want to visit. I might just want to look at it from afar, depending on what the country looks like. But right now, many Nigerians are talking about 2027 when we are sitting on the keg of a gunpowder. Many people can die if we are not taking this serious. If we are not taking this issue serious, we could lose many lives. It has happened before in Yugoslavia. The Yugoslavia, as at the time, the leader was warned continuously that the people do not want to live together under one country. But he refused to, and that led to the millions of people that lost their lives. He eventually was charged for war crime and he died in the prison. I pray Tinubu will not replicate the same thing. So for those that are not taking this serious, you're talking about an election again when the situation is becoming even much worse. The Northerners do not trust Tinubu. Neither does Tinubu trust them. The Easterners do not even want to have anything to do. Forget about what their governors are saying. They are all part of the crime scene because the true Biafrans do not want to have anything to do because Nigeria will never, and I use never, have an Igbo president. The Fulani hate the Igbo so much for the atrocity that has happened in the past, vice versa. So if we are one of those that are hoping and praying that Peter Obi will be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, please spit that out now. He will never be the president. None of your people will be the president of Nigeria. So what are the reasons why you want to hold on to being part of a country that you are not going to be represented? Even Wike said that power must go back to the north under the rotation system. When you have a Biafra country, you are not rotating your presidency with a Yoruba man, neither a Fulani man. If we have our Yoruba country, we will not have to be arguing whether we bring an Igbo man to run to be a governor in Lagos State or a president that is going to be from the East. It will be for Yoruba people. The same vice versa in the North for the Hausas, the Ijos. Why then do we want to remain one? These questions need to be answered according to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Agbakoba, and millions of Yoruba people that are clamoring for the right of self-determination under the leadership of Professor Adebanji Akintoye.
Mark you, the flip side of the question is that we mustn't be one.
The flip side is we mustn't be one. Many countries are forced to remain one. It has created a war. I pray that a war does not break loose in Nigeria. That is my prayer, but it seems that the politicians are not saying that there's a war that is looming, is coming. Today, for record purpose, is 25 March 2025 at exactly 10 minutes past 1800 hours. There is a war that is looming. Many people know these, but they're talking about 2027.
Because Yugoslavia, which was 6 countries under Marshal Tito, when he died, decided to break apart. And today, a lot of them are very strong countries, Macedonia.
Yugoslavia, under Marshal Tito, as he said, break apart. 6 countries came out of it. Should Nigeria have 6 countries with smaller countries out of it, it is still worth it than being in a 220 million country, and many people can die if we force ourselves to live together. We are pushing for a war, and we are trying to stop it by creating awareness and telling Nigerians that there's a war, WHR, war is looming in Nigeria as we speak right now. There is a war that might break loose, and many people will die, whether they are Yoruba, they are Hausa, they are Fulanis, they are Ijo. Many lives will be lost, and still Nigeria will still break. We can stop it from happening, but we are not taking it serious. Those of you that are pushing for 2027, you're calling for war. You are pushing an agenda that is not worth it again. The country has elapsed. It has expired. It has run through everything what Tinubu needs to be talking about, addressing every Nigerian and giving a quick time frame within 6 months for the dissolution of Nigeria completely, and everybody from the Senate return back to their own part of Nigeria as a country. But should Tinubu continue to push for 2027, is also pushing for a war. There will be a war in Nigeria. It is clearing from the east to the middle belt, to the Hausa, to the Fulanis, to the 350 ethnic people that are living in the country. Many lives will be lost. It will be worse than the Biafra war. We can stop it. Our campaign should be Yoruba country now, Biafra country now, Ijo country, making 3, Hausa country, 4, and if there's others that wants to also come out, how is it? Not good. Let's listen further.
Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, they're all doing well. So there is no sacrosanctity about Nigeria being one country. There's none. I personally would wish for Nigeria to be one country, but we must agree. Now that is the problem. Because we have not agreed, and because the National Assembly has appropriated to itself the all-knowing wisdom of
they drink, they fornicate, they do all the things that all human beings do. So it's not a question of religion. There's no question of anybody being truly a Muslim there. You know, even I knew a chief judge who was supposed to be leading Muslim prayers, who, anytime he came to me in my official residence, would put a brandy or whiskey in a mug and be drinking, and they would smoke and all that. So I don't think it's religion. When they started this Sharia, how many of them are obeying the Sharia? How many of them? No, not none of their leaders. So it's not religion per se, but they use religion to deceive people and say, Hausas were not Muslims at all. So they say, well, let's give you a superior religion, we'll give you Islam. But that didn't apply to the South, because we've had Muslims in Yoruba land even before 14th century.
So truly, what we are fighting against, or what is going on, is clash of culture.
And civilizations.
And civilizations.
That's right.
Not really the Fulani versus the Igbo, or the Fulani versus the Yoruba.
No.
It's clash of civilizations.
Yes, clash of civilizations and clash of cultures. Yes, you're right.
That means we have not really integrated as a people.
Never. We have never been.
So the word the Nigerian people is a fallacy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because, again, in those days, you would say there have always been Igbo markets, Hausa markets in Enugu. There have always been Sabos in Shagamu. But those Sabos were occupied by Hausas. Hausas are peaceful people. We traded in Kola Nord. We did even the few Fulanis that came with them at that time, when you had a Sabo in Shagamu or in Ibadan here, they would still look for one Fulani man and make him their Seriki.
How did the Hausa accept
they were subdued. They were subdued.
People were subdued. The Yoruba are becoming subdued. Many Yorubas are running away from their towns and cities due to the influx. What do you want?
Despite their large number.
Yes, they were subdued. Of course, they killed, they ruined, they extirpated their 7 kingdoms. They killed their 7 rulers and took over under the guise of religion. Another thing they used, they used the word corruption. Oh, your people are corrupt.
That is exactly what is happening right now in Yoruba land. We are now being subdued. Rather than the current administration to look into the issue, is looking away, talking about election, an election that might bring war, an election that can bring chaos. We can see the influx of people that are trying everything possibly best to subdue us. We thought we only heard about the Hausas. The Yorubas now are being subdued, and everybody is not talking about it. Everybody is shy from talking about it. We are scared to talk about it. But the reality is getting closer. From Ondo State to Ogun State, Oyo State, those 3 states out of the picture, we saw and we heard that there are camps across every part of Yoruba land. That is being subdued. These people will kill many Yoruba people. The same Yoruba people that are talking about 2027 can be killed by the people that are preparing for war while we are talking about an election. These people are not talking about election. The message has been there, but we have been avoiding to talk about it. This man warned us, but people thought it has gone past the year of what is going to happen. If it has not happened as at the time, does not mean it is not going to happen. This is what he said before he died.
Which is it for you, Dr. Obadiah? Do you think the government is unwilling or unable to protect the people of Southern Kaduna?
In fact, it is not only unable, it is unwilling, and we have good reason to feel that they are part and parcel of the killers. Let me make some revelations to you.
That's a very big allegation, Dr. Obadiah. The government is part and parcel of the killers.
Yes.
It is true. The government has been part of the killers, and they remain part of the killers. But many Nigerians do not want to believe that line, but let's hear, maybe you might, after listening to these.
Every one of us must rise up. The armed forces are not neutral. They collude They collude. They collude with the armed bandits.
Does that not tally with what late Malafia was talking about? That the government is part and parcel of the killers. Are we not witnessing that today? Men dressed in military camouflage stop Nigerians. Nigerians thought that these are just normal military checkpoints, only to be wheeled into the forest and never to be seen again. If they're lucky, they'll return back after paying a huge ransom. And the Yoruba people, the Igbos, the Hausa, the Ijaw, and everybody is playing politics. We are playing politics with our lives in a country that is currently under subdue by the Fulani threat. We are playing banter. We are joking with our lives. We are running parties in a country that we can all see physically being warned, being told by many people that Nigeria is at the verge of breakup. But it seems that many people doesn't see it that way for whatever reason. But this platform is putting it out again this evening that there is a war that is looming around that country called Nigeria. And we hope that you will tell the representatives to tell Tinubu to divide Nigeria now. We have just limited more time before the broadcast comes to an end. But before we go out of the broadcast, let me just, like I said earlier, touch on the remaining part of the broadcast. My name is Olami Koike. Koike Media, bringing the world closer to your doorstep. The Good News, Path to Prosperity by Professor Adebanji Akintoye. We're just going to look at it in a brief. We've talked about it. You can go back and see many of the topics that I've talked about and the template of the futuristic of a Yoruba country out of the current one that we are experiencing today. The Good News, Path to Prosperity in our Orileede Yoruba by Professor Adebanji Akintoye. Introduction quickly. In the following pages, I try to present the glorious picture of our soon-to-come country, our Orileede Yoruba. I try to describe the dreams that are impelling millions of Yoruba men and women in all countries of the world to engage seriously in the Yoruba self-determination struggle. To come together in countless after-night putting ideas from their disciplines and professionals in writing about how our soon-to-come country shall be great, prosperous, powerful in the world. God Almighty made us Yoruba people a great people of talent, intellect, and skills, and large numbers of us are now pouring out those gifts into the ideas that will make our country one of the greatest and most famous countries in the history of the world. And that will make us Yoruba people a loving, laughing, humiliated family of happy and contented men and women and children. A lot of the intellectual and other effort by our people come to me as father of our self-determination struggle. Altogether, they make me humble, happy, and proud, employing my own specialty, and insight. I hereby put forth, point by point, the main items of what I perceive to be our own nation called Yoruba country. Purpose, determination, and expectation. I urge all Yoruba people to read it. I urge each to endeavor to bring the benefit of his speciality to bear on any of his various points. in its totality, this is a manifesto from those of us who are fighting for our sovereign Yoruba nation, our independent Yoruba country separate from Nigeria. If you have not read this, you need to find a copy on my website, koikimedia.com, no, koikimedia.com or koikiinternationalnews.com. I repeat that again, koikiinternationalnews.com. This is very important, very unique, that you go through every details, because it will bring the hope that we've never witnessed in the contraction jungle that Britain put together for their own selfish interest. Let's go further. In its totality, one more time, this is a manifesto from those of us who are fighting for our sovereign Yoruba nation, our independent Yoruba country, separate from Nigeria. I live in the unwavering faith and hope that our Yoruba country shall soon be free, and that thereafter we shall see the glory of God upon the life of our free and sovereign Yoruba nation and upon all of us Yoruba people. Amen. Days will come, as many of you are doubting it. The Yoruba country will pull out of Nigeria in a very glorious way, in a way that the world have been waiting, that the British or Britain wants to stop. The Yoruba people will pull out, and the world will be grateful for having a country that is ready to walk within the global world. Not going to happen should Yoruba people remain in Nigeria. We're saying to President Bola Tinubu to now divide Nigeria. As I speak to you today, the Sharia is already being pushed again in Oyo State. People will be subdued. The war is looming around us. Camps of terrorists have surrounded us. Influx of jihadist terrorists continue to bombard and kill many Nigerian military that are loyal to Nigerians. We saw the video of innocent military personnel being executed by the Fulani terrorists. They are not joking. This is real. This is not a film trick. You might not have been affected because you are far away, does not mean it is not happening. This new manifesto of the Yoruba nation is a template that we can have a better future out of Nigeria, should you want to be part of it now. But for those of you that continue to push the wrong narrative that we should continue to foster to have election in 2027, I'm talking about the Yoruba representative and the rest of those that are pushing in their own region. The country might not sustain you as a person. Think about it. Think about it that you might not even be in the country when the war starts. But innocent people will be caught up. This is why we are saying to those of you that are still in doubt, to warn those that are in power not to risk the lives of millions of innocent Nigeria now. Many lives were lost during the Biafra War in the 1967. That was the first war that was televised around the world. This one will not just be televised, it would also bring chaos and death. And it might take many years for us to get back as people again. Let us warn this current administration that the time to divide Nigeria is now. The time to divide Nigeria is now. The politicians are joking with it, but they might not even have a country to call Nigeria as well. The politicians are joking with what many Nigerians of indigenous ethnic are talking about. You might not understand what I'm saying, but those that knows what I'm talking about, that have witnessed the war, will tell you it is not a child's play. Destructions of what we've seen as is happening in other countries around the world is real. Let us find peace to stop what might become a problem. There is still opportunity to find a lasting solution to all the problems by dividing Nigeria. But should the politician think that they can push, it can be a big disaster. As I'm bringing the show to an end, I'll be updating more on this particular, the good news. There are many areas that we have talked about. We are a nation with proud roots and a proud history. An independent Nigeria, we have suffered serious decline and agony. We shall revive and strengthen our education. First and foremost, in our Orileede Yoruba, we shall seriously revive our national character. Our youth development program will transform our nation. We shall clean up our politics. We shall take creative steps about political parties. We shall make our election quality elections. We shall achieve a corruption-free public service. We shall create a true and respectable judiciary. We shall build an incorruptible civil service. We shall craft the most appropriate constitution. We shall have truly Yoruba national military and security services. We shall evolve an effective foreign policy and service. We shall evolve the best immigration policy. Our country shall be a land of enterprise and plentiful. We shall kill corruption in our country. We shall have trusted and respectable public media. We shall place great emphasis on sport. We shall go very powerful for technology. We shall impose order on our mineral exploitation. We shall create highly efficiency transportation. We shall make our electricity supply maximal efficient. We shall have regular water supply in our towns. We shall evolve a rational healthcare system. We shall modernize our cities. We shall seriously emphasize enterprise and business. We shall take conscientious care of our weak citizens. We shall at least go seriously for modern agriculture. We shall elevate tourism. We shall preserve and strengthen religious harmony in our country. We shall restore dignity to our Obas. We shall return fully to our Yoruba language. We shall keep the cost of governance low and patriotic. And the last but not the least, politics and public service will be patriotic and clean, open to all true patriots in our new country. All these will never work in one country called fake Nigeria. Should you want to experience everything I have read, you will endorse and support the vision of the leader of the Yoruba self-determination under our leadership, Professor Adebanji Akintoye, to experience and witness every part of that manifesto that I have told you. And on that note, we will say a very good evening to you all for watching and for listening, and have a very beautiful evening. From the Koiki Media studio in London, I say join us once again when we come back for many more programs as we continue to educate millions of Nigerians on the reason why we, the Yorubas, have made up our mind to leave Nigeria and have our own Yoruba country. It would happen, and it will come when most of you might not even be fully prepared. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.
Kashishe